UX is tough, not because of the work itself, but because of everything around it. The pressure, the politics, the self-doubt. Joe Natoli has been through it all, and for more than 30 years, he's been helping UXers and designers find their way through the challenges that really make or break a career. Not the wireframes or design tools, but impostor syndrome, office politics, bad bosses, and learning to stand your ground. This is Making UX Work, where he tackles the battles no boot camp, book, or conference ever prepares you for, and shows you how to come out stronger on the other side.
Very early on, when I was doing consulting gigs, I started to realize that I was absolutely unable to bring peace or win arguments or get people to join hands and play nice with facts, with logic, with the reality of the situation, with shared goals. Now, do those things matter? Of course they do, but what I figured out is that they don't solve the thorny issues, the heated disagreements, the natural opposition that occurs. What does solve those issues are the kinds of things that I'm going to talk about right now. As I have said before, you have to get to fear. So I started asking very different questions whenever people were resistant to something. To this day, I literally ask people when they're defending their position just a little too strongly, look, tell me what you're afraid of right now. And they often give me this look that's kind of like, what the fuck did you just say to me? But I say it again. Tell me what you're afraid is going to happen. I can see it on your face. I can hear it in your voice. Tell me what you're afraid is going to happen. How is this going to go south? How's it going to go sideways? What's going to happen if we don't do this your way, or if we do it this other way? Because I know that there's fear in there, and eventually it comes out. And once it finally comes out, not only does that change things for that person, it also changes things for everyone else in the room as well. Okay, now we're talking like human beings. Everyone's blood pressure comes down, and other people start getting vulnerable as well. Truth be told, I was really worried about that too. I'm glad that you were honest about it, and I'm sorry that I wasn't. And I think to myself, right, now we're getting somewhere. Now, if you're lucky and there's a third party in the room to do it for you, hey, that's great. But most of us don't always have that luxury. I mean, I would love to have someone whose job it was to just follow me around everywhere and check my bullshit all day long. Hey, Joe, cut the shit already. You're doing it again. But since that's not going to happen, I got to find ways to do it myself, right? Which is exactly what I've learned to do over the years. Now, to sort of shift gears for a second here, one of the things I often hear from people that I coach is that, my boss or my family member or my significant other is difficult, that they're gruff, that they're coarse, they're not very approachable. I'm going to tell you that one of the best lessons I ever took to heart was to stop caring whether or not that person was nice or personable or approachable or whatever, which also helped me to stop caring about how they reacted to what I had to say. Now, does that impulse to shrink back or to fight back still kick in when somebody is confrontational with me? Yes, always. But I use the mantras I've talked about previously to counter it. I use questions to counter it. I make that person defend their ground instead of me having to defend mine. And I say what I'm going to say because my attitude at this point is I absolutely refuse to base my self-worth on someone else's reaction. I refuse to judge the merit or the value of what I say, what I do, or what I provide based on someone else's reaction. I'm going to judge it based on its own merit. If what's on the table is about me doing my job, for example, there's only one metric I care about. Did that work or didn't it? Was it successful or wasn't it? Did it help us or didn't it? And I've learned over time that any answer to those questions is perfectly, completely acceptable, okay? Any answer is the right answer. I either win or I learn. And with people, it's the same thing. You draw boundaries and you let go of the outcome. We're either going to have this conversation or we're not. You're going to be willing to engage with me in a polite and civil way, in a calm, respectful tone of voice, or you're not. And if you're not, no problem. That just means we're not going to talk at all. You're not going to say anything that's going to change that. Look, I don't ever change my course because someone is reacting poorly. Here's why. That reaction isn't about me. It has nothing to do with me. It's about them. Listen to me. Anytime someone tries to dictate what someone else does, anytime someone tries to push in any way in a corporate environment, and I have seen this in teams 1,000 times, it is always based on fear. That's their shit coming up for them. Okay, it's never rational, it's never logical, and it's never based on some professional code of ethics or insistence that the job be done a certain way. It's never about that, as in never.
As you probably know by now, the way it's supposed to work is never how it actually is. Joe Natoli has seen it all across 3 decades of consulting with the world's largest organizations, and he built the UX 365 Academy to teach professionals like you what really works. No jargon, no fantasy frameworks, just proven tools for surviving and thriving in the corporate reality of UX and product design. Get the missing manual for your career at ux365academy.com.
I can promise you that at the root of almost every complaint you're ever going to read online about some colleague or some boss or some family member's egregious, combative, or otherwise questionable behavior is that the person doing all that terrible shit is acting from a place of fear. So the other thing I tell myself an awful lot is that when someone reacts in an outsized, disproportionate, overly emotional way, there's almost always some very serious emotional baggage behind it. Their reaction has nothing to do with what's taking place right now, and even less to do with me. That's fear. And I work to remind myself of that so that their reaction lands a lot differently, so that I see that person's behavior in a completely different light. Right? The first thing I think to myself when someone gets irate is, all right, what's this person afraid of? And that becomes my mission. Now I've got to find out what it is that they're afraid of. What's their impostor whispering in their ear? Look, these environments that we all work in are this sort of weird conflation of opposing forces at work. And because of that, it's really easy to feel like, well, it must be me. I'm the one that doesn't get it. Everyone else seems to be doing just fine. Except they're not doing fine. They're just not showing it like you are. They're juggling chainsaws just like you. They're just dealing with that danger in a very different way. My point here is that you have to let yourself off that hook. If this is mainly a work thing for you, then I want you to see just how difficult the position you're in really is, just by its very nature. Okay? Navigating all this ridiculous complexity in an environment where forces are literally set up in diametric opposition to each other is gonna be fucking hard. On its best day, it's gonna be fucking hard. So reacting to some of these situations emotionally is normal. Finding difficulty with some of the scenarios and people in politics that you encounter every day at work is normal. So that hand that you're continuously smacking yourself with, you need to put it down. You need to put it down because this is not easy stuff. I want you to think about the thing I said a minute ago. People of any kind, no matter what they're being difficult about, there's almost always something personal there at work, and it is usually fear. When people guard their territory, when people refuse to share information, when people try to sabotage your efforts, when they simply clam up and won't talk to you at all, it's fear. Which once again means that in reality, their shitty attitudes and reactions and pettiness all have absolutely nothing to do with you. All the more reason you need a plan in place to deal with their bullshit when it happens, because as we've established, it will happen. So I'm going to leave you with this. My father was a process engineer for General Motors all his life, designed cars and systems for cars. He has 2 patents. He is well acquainted with physics. And he taught me a lesson when I started driving that, as it turns out, is also critically important in moments of crisis like the ones we're talking about, especially the ones where danger is real, where someone stands to really be hurt or even lose their life. And I'll share that lesson by painting you a picture. Here's the scene. You're driving your car, it's wet outside. You take a turn just a little too fast and you start to skid. What's the first thing you do? Now, most people will answer, you steer in the direction of the skid, which is what I answered when my father asked me that question. And as soon as I said it, he frowned, shook his head violently, and said, "No, Joe, absolutely not. The absolute first thing you do is you take your fucking foot off the gas. And then the second thing you do," he told me, "is put the car in neutral. When the wheels roll free, there's no pressure behind those wheels, which is what is causing that skid in the first place. Remove the force behind the wheels, and the car will literally straighten itself out." So think about this in context of everything I've said to you so far. When you're in a moment of panic, you take your fucking foot off the gas and put the car in neutral. You let it go. You let it happen. You stop that forward motion of, oh God, what if they don't like me? What if I didn't do it right? What if my mom or dad or teacher or ex-wife or husband was right that I'll never amount to anything? Stop. Take your foot off the gas. Put it in neutral. Remove the pressure. Wait. Breathe. And replace fear with truth.
You've been listening to Making UX Work with Joe Natoli. Honest talk about the hidden challenges that shape a design career. See you next time. And until then, onward and upward.